Welcome, Victor.
Hey, man.
How are you doing?
I'm great, man. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. I'm so excited to be talking with you. Uh, we worked together briefly, and I think you're a really, really smart guy. And just heard that you're starting into investments and financial advising. So I'd love to talk to you, ask you some questions. So first of all, maybe you can introduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah. I don't. Let's see. Where can I start? I'm name is Victor. Hello, everyone. I graduated from SFU in finance and econ. I did a double major. I started investing in 2016. Made a lot of mistakes up until 2018. 2019 was an okay year for me, and then 2020 has just been amazing. I worked at TC with Brian. Learned a lot there because I worked as a financial analyst. That really helped transition into what I'm doing now. I started working in July of 2019, and then COVID hit in February, March.
Right.
And then it just wasn't for me anymore. We parted ways. I came to Vancouver, moved back to Vancouver to see my parents, and I've been doing this full time since then.
Right.
I don't know what else should I say about me. I'm from Peru.
You were originally based in Montreal. So what was that move like from going on East Coast, quote unquote, to the West Coast? Has the vibe been different living where you are?
Yeah, it's very different. French Canada Montreal is just so much fun. Everything is concentrated in downtown. So there's festivals, there's bars, there's a bunch of things happening all the time, and people from just all over the world. Vancouver is a little bit more, I would say, it's better suited for a family. So it's very calm, a lot of beautiful nature, and right now I'm working at a daycare with kids, just so I can pay for my food and stuff while I'm doing this full time. So if I were to compare just in a few words, Vancouver to Montreal, it would be Montreal is more fun. Vancouver is more if you want to do your own thing.
Cool.
Lots of distractions there.
in Montreal.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, for me, I visit Montreal for work quite a lot. I loved it there. But for vacation, I would prefer Vancouver. I visit Vancouver. It used to be almost on an annual basis. I have a lot of friends there, and I just love the outdoors. So I take advantage of the good summer months. And when it comes to around this time of the year, when it starts raining a lot, I just kind of peace out of there. But yeah, for all those watching, East Coast or West Coast, what do you guys think? Comments below and tell me what your preferences are. I'm definitely an East Coast person. New York, Toronto, Montreal, those are all the places I love. Maybe a 1 week vacation in Vancouver, Seattle, LA. That's probably about enough for me.
Right. Whistler, Tofino, great places to be around.
Yes. I have actually a buddy who's going to be surfing in Tofino soon. So I'm trying to push him to go as soon as possible to take advantage of the weather and before everything gets locked down here in Toronto. So all that aside, you mentioned you started investing in 2016.
Yeah.
What were your motivations when you started? Why did you want to start investing?
So at the time I was working at National Bank, and I was studying just finance and stuff. So I was getting introduced to this whole thing. And at the time I didn't even know what a TFSA was or an RRSP or where I could put my money in, mutual fund. What is this? What's a FISA? I was starting to learn, and ever since I was a kid, I was always motivated by numbers. And what motivated me was, I guess, I wanted to make money. Like who doesn't like money? Right? You can do whatever you want. Whoever says that doesn't like money, you're lying. You know, like everyone just wants to have enough money to satisfy all their needs, and then have a little bit more so they can enjoy the pleasures of life. So I remember I spoke with one of the bankers, Ken Martin, what's his name, and he he put me into a mutual fund. And then I remember I would like go on my phone and look at this fund that I'm invested in, and it wouldn't move a lot, like maybe $5 a day, and it was boring for me. Mm-hmm. So I took the money out and put it into like a self-direct, like into what's it called, direct brokerage, international bank direct brokerage. So it's self-directed, and that's how I started investing on my own. So I don't know what motivated me was that I started to learn about the possibility of having like a second income stream. I had just started working. I had enough money for my own stuff, and then I had extra money that I didn't really need to spend. And I've never been a huge spender anyways. So I was like, well, I'm gonna start investing, you know, like it's
that makes sense.
Yeah, because I feel there's a lot of misconceptions around investing, and that you know, it's people say, oh, it's for retirement and blah blah blah, and it's boring, you should just have fun now. And it's like, well, if you do it right, if you start investing young, like when you're 20 or even 30, in 10 years you can compound your money easily, and if you know what you're doing, and you don't have to wait until you're old to
for sure.
To enjoy. So
I think for me, I've always flirted with investing, and that's kind of how I would describe that relationship. Similar to you, I grew up poor. My family was in like immigrant family. My parents worked cash jobs, and they worked really hard to make a living and provide for my sister and I.
Sure.
And I think at a very young age, I learned that, you know, there's only so much time that you're able to trade for money. So if you're working an hourly wage, you're trading your time for money essentially.
Right.
And you know, somewhere along the line, I learned about, you know, making money work for you. And I think that was the light bulb moment for me. I was like, wow, I don't need to be tied to an hourly thing where I'm trading my time for money. The money is going to be working for me, compounding, etc. Right? Yeah. But for me, I've always I went to school for business, and one of my best subjects was econ as well. So I think we have a similar background. But finance was just something that I understood all the fundamental concepts because, you know, Business 101, introductory to finance, and then I did the corporate finance courses as well. As you need to graduate. But it was one of those things where I know that there's going to be so much to learn that I didn't want to put in the effort. And it was kind of intimidating for me. And it still is, actually, to be honest. So
it is for a lot of people, and it shouldn't be. Well, we can go over that at some point, how to make it simple.
So I've always been told, and of course, like hearing from the ads, TV shows, my financial advisor, my banker, etc., they always tell me, you know, okay, TFSA, and actually like Personal Finance Canada, the subreddit, they always preach, put money in your TFSA, max out on your RRSP, max those two accounts out, and then do this and do that, etc., etc. What does all these mean, and how would you come up with a strategy for someone that is maybe in their early to mid 20s and that have a different risk profile to someone who is married and have children?
Right.
Or how would you go about like all these acronyms, TFSA, HISA, etc.
Yeah. So a TFSA and RRSP, I think they're the main ones. They are the main ones in Canada, and they're umbrella terms. So under a TFSA, you can have a savings account, you can have a GIC, you can have a mutual fund, you can do a self-directed investment fund, a TFSA. And what it is when you put money in a TFSA, whatever money is in there, it doesn't get taxed on any gains or losses. On any gains, don't get taxed. So that's where you can take a lot of risks, especially if you're young. Now, what I tell to people that are around our age is that you and I, we may not have the willingness to take on a lot of risk, but we do have the ability, the capacity to take on risk because we have time on our side. And
Absolutely,
and time is probably the most underrated and the most important aspect of investing. So TFSA, yes, is the first one that you should be maxing out, and take a lot of risk. There's many ways of doing that, like where to put your money, but let's go to the RRSP. So the RRSP is really something that you should only be using when you're at higher tax brackets. So your RRSP room accumulates over time as you make money. And if you invest in an RRSP and you're only making $40K a year, you're not really taking advantage of an RRSP. So how it works, let's say you make $40K and you want to invest $20K in your RRSP. Your tax bracket at $40K is around 20%. But if you were making $100K, your tax bracket is much higher. So investing the same amount is going to be way more beneficial because it reduces your income for the year. So that 100K becomes 80K, and the 40% tax on 20K is a lot more than a 20% tax. So just to give you an example, because the numbers can get messy, I had a person that I know, I helped them with their year-end taxes. The person was making 100K and they had a line of credit. So I said, it was like February. The deadline for investing in an RRSP for the calendar year is up to March, I believe, if they haven't changed it. And then I said, well, you can take 25K out of your line of credit and invest it in an RRSP. The guy was making 100K. He got back 13K from investing 25K into his RRSP account. We took that 13K and we put it in again. So
that's the, I guess the tax rebate. Is that what you're talking about, the 13K?
Yeah.
The tax
remittance,
right? Yeah, okay.
Tax remittance, yeah, because during the year, if you're making a wage, you're paying taxes on your payroll, right? So you already paid a lot of tax. So if you invest in an RRSP in that fashion, you can save. That you're basically getting free money. The problem with RRSP though is that it's locked in until you pretty much die. You're like 71, and that's what I don't invest in an RRSP. I've never put a single dollar in there, and the reason is because I firmly believe that one should have fun before one is 71. So what I tell people is max out your TFSA first, and then open an account, just a normal investment account. And once you're at a higher tax bracket, yeah, for sure, put some money in your RRSP because you're gonna get a lot of money back from the government, and like free money. So it's not TFSA RRSP other, which is what you hear out there. It's actually TFSA normal investment account, and depending on where you are at, you want to be investing in an RRSP or not.
Okay. And does that change at all with varying risk profile? So suddenly now, instead of talking about all things being equal, right? So all things being equal, let's say two-person, who is willing to accept higher risk versus someone who is not willing to accept higher risk, does that order of the three types of accounts change?
Let me think about it before I say no. I would say no, not at all, because these are just like terms, and
Right. Okay.
the risk that someone takes really depends on what is under that term. So if you invest in a GIC TFSA, then it's low risk. If you invest in a high risk like equity, like stocks TFSA, then it's high risk. And you can do the same under an RRSP, GIC or RRSP.
Okay, I get it. So I think that's the main thing that a lot of like average people like me would get tripped up on, is like all these terms, but then now it makes sense that under each of these umbrellas, I can have a complete different portfolio of investment vehicles that's catered to my risk profile. But the order 100%. Of the like, for example, your vegetables, your proteins, and your
exactly
carbohydrates.
And you know, depending on your financial situation, you can actually take advantage of the different things that you have at your disposal and have one account where it's your high risk account and you just go crazy there. Right? And then you have another one that is more safe, and this one would be just like an emergency fund in case something happens. You probably want this to be a TFSA, because from a TFSA you can withdraw the money without any penalty. From an RSP you can't. So this safe TFSA would be maybe like a dividend paying companies that don't have a lot of volatility, and just putting some money in there in case something happens. And then you have your crazy TFSA self-directed account where you just go, 10% of your money or 50% of your risk loving goes in there. So there's really a lot of things that at your disposal that you can play with. And like you said, a lot of people don't know.
No, that makes complete sense. So let's say I have some disposable income, right? And I think for me personally, I'm the same way as you. Like, I don't spend a lot of money. The times that I do spend money, they are typically, high ticket items, but it's like once in a blue moon that I, like, for example, I need a new laptop, but how often are you going to need a new laptop? So I'm also very frugal in terms of how much I spend. But some people out there, they have trouble budgeting. So if they're working or they run their own business, what tips and advice would you offer for budgeting wise, so that you have money to put aside to start investing?
So for budgeting, and I actually I did a podcast yesterday with one of my friends from Vancouver. We went over budgeting. We went over these types of accounts and other basics of finance. So I'll go over just really quickly here. What you want to be doing, it doesn't matter what your risk profile is or what you look like, is know how much money is coming in, so your income, and you can do a really quick budget, a monthly budget on a Google Sheet spreadsheet. Just like open, and your income, and then know your fixed costs. So what would that be? Maybe rent or mortgage or car, insurance, subscriptions, Netflix, and if you're into that. Whatever other fixed costs you may or may not have. So that line there, you take your income, you minus all that stuff, and that's your disposable income. Well, then you have variable costs, right? If you want to order that extra takeout on that Wednesday, then you can. And that depends on whether you're a spender or you're a saver. You're going to have more variable spend or less variable spend. Take your disposable income minus your variable expenses, and that's how much you have to save / invest. Now you can do that. That's one column. That's 1 month. You can do that times 12. You can do that for a year, and then you can really very easily see how much you're able to save. And it's really up to you if you're willing to stick to it or or not, and how stringent you are and how disciplined you are, or you're not. So
yeah, I read a lot on the subreddit, Personal Finance Canada. That's a lot of people are in trouble with their budgets because they overextend or they leverage too heavily. So let's assume that all we're talking about are people who have the ability to spend. And I guess like we're both fortunate, and I recognize that there are people out there struggling. But yeah, let's focus on people who have the ability to invest, put aside money. So how would you say like is the mindset going into investing? So I've heard the same mindset that I use for when I advise small business owners on advertising is put in money into your advertising that you're willing to lose, right? That you're going to say goodbye to and you're totally okay, and it's not going to hurt you in any way. It'll hurt a little bit, but it won't sink the entire ship. So that's how I tell people to approach advertising, especially if it's like your first time going into advertising. So a lot of people I say, okay, can you put in $150 a month? Can you put in $100 a month? 200. If you narrow down your targeting in advertising, that dollar can be spent and stretched really, really far. So what's the mindset someone should have when they're going into investing?
Right. So for advertising, it's a little bit different. Like the way that you just explained it, it would be a little bit different than for investing, because right now, this is advertising in this sense would be a sunk cost.
Yes.
Put it in, and it does what it does, and it's gone. So, but it's an investment because you hope that in the future you're going to get a return from that advertising. With investing, it's different, very different, because like if you know where to put your money, if you have a good financial advisor, which a lot of people don't have, because a lot of them ask for like a minimum of 50K threshold for them to give you any kind of advice. So it's not easy for people that are just starting investing or young people to get into that. I went off on a tangent there, but remind me of all right, investing, right? And advertising.
What's the mindset going into investing?
What's the mindset? Right. So let's assume that you're just getting started, you don't know anything about investing. The most important thing is know where you're going to put your money. So you have to do a little bit of research. And I'm not saying here become a financial analyst, but understand how the world is changing, and anyone can do that, and everyone should do that, because the world is changing really fast. COVID was this year for investing has been crazy, because the good companies, you can see who they are. The price just like went crazy, and the bad companies or the bad industries are just staying. So if you look at oil and energy, for example, you don't want to be in there. If you look at linear TV, you don't want to be in there. Look at big conglomerate companies or companies with a lot of debt, you don't want to be in there. Why debt? Because right now interest rates are really low, and when they rise, it's not if, it's when they rise, those interest payments on that debt, they're going to eat they're going to eat the revenues, and the companies are going to die. So how do you approach investing? Advertising, we went over it, put the money in, sunk costs. Investing is different. So there are great companies out there. One company that I really like is the Treebud. So if you were to put money into this company, it would be like me personally, I don't put any money into a company that I don't believe is going to be there in 10 years. I just don't. So I invest in solar energy. I invest in medical marijuana REITs. I invest in Invisalign, because all the doctors that I'm hearing, they just don't want to. Invisalign is just way better than braces. And there's a bunch of, like I have them here. I would invest in, let's see, Genomics, that's pretty cool. RG, what else do I have in here? Automation, robotics, AI, and then PayPal, so no banks, none of that stuff. And the approach that I would take is not a sunk cost. When you invest, you're putting money in, and if you're putting money in and you have like a doubt that it's not going to make you money, then you shouldn't be investing.
Right.
Invest in something that you understand, and if you know how the world is changing, you can do that, and then you don't have that worrying anymore about losing your money. And if you have a long-term mentality, then you don't really mind the volatility, especially if you're around our age, because you know that some industries are getting replaced by other industries. These are going down, these are going up. It doesn't matter if it does this, they're getting replaced.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is, there are a lot of buzzworthy and sort of hot industries of the day, or like
5G.
Yeah, so like all these like buzzworthy or kind of, I would quote unquote put them in fads. So what I'm hearing is that don't invest in fads and invest with a long-term strategy and things that you believe and know. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So a lot of the fads would be. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so like there's a lot of fads. If we go back to 2018, the biggest fad was the wheat stocks. Mm-hmm. They had just gone up like crazy. And
canopy growth was just like skyrocketing during that time. And there were a few canopy.
Afria, there was Aurora, Tilray. Aurora, Tilray. There were a bunch of them. We're like, and the biggest problem that I had when I first started investing, and that every investor has when they first start doing their thing, is they looked at a chart and it's going up like crazy, and you buy at the top, then it goes down, then they panic, they sell it, and then they don't invest ever again. It's not for me, right? And they get caught into these ads on Google that say the next Amazon or whatever, and then it sounds great, you invest and you lose your money. So don't get caught in pretty much all of the free information that is there, and then the media is there for them to profit and YouTube it, pretty much.
Okay.
Like a big percentage of it. So right now, I would say there's the genomics so there's ARK funds, ARK-G. Kathy Woods, she's got a lot of different investments. She's got ARK-K, she's got ARK-W, ARK-G. I think they're the main ones. And she's the one that predicted the Tesla bull run. The problem that I'm seeing in genomics right now is their financials. So their financials are flat and their stock prices keep going up. On top of that, they're issuing a lot of money out. They're issuing more shares, so they're diluting existing shareholders, and the stock price just goes up. And I'm like, what? Right now, it doesn't make any sense. So I also went over this in yesterday's podcast. This is probably one of the bubbles that is right now would be genomics. In the future, it's going to be a thing. I believe that they have a good thing going, but it really matters where you start investing. It really matters if you buy at an all-time high. Like if you buy Amazon at the dot-com bubble, it takes, like if you look at the chart, it takes like 8 years for you to get, or 9 or 10 for you to get your money back. So So be careful with ArcG. I'm not gonna say don't invest. Hey, if you want to invest in ArcG, I would probably use a cost average strategy. So I would put, if you have 5K, I would put 1K now and then wait 2 months and put another K. And like, don't be scared of missing out, especially if you're 20 or 30. We have time. You know, don't put all your eggs in one basket at the same time. Cost average. So discipline, patience. 1K now, 1K in another month, and then another month, and another month. So you can.
This is exactly what I was doing. I was fortunate enough to pull out of 90% of my my portfolio out of the market just before January. So I think this must have been like October, November. So 90% of my money pulled out, and then I put everything back in end of March.
Nice.
I pulled 50% out about 2 months ago, and then I pulled another 50% of the remainder, so 25% back out just before the election.
Okay.
So right now, 15% or 25% of my net worth is kind of like still riding this high from end of March.
Right.
But I'm going to start cost averaging the remainder 75% liquid cash that I have. Also to sit as like a little safety bubble, because I don't have work right now. I need some cash flow. But in the next year or so, I'm going to start doing this cost averaging thing where I'm going to put in a grand every month back into my portfolio. So it sounds to me that I've got the right idea. So thank you for confirming that.
Yeah, that's what you want to be doing. Right now, the market is a bit stretched. How I know is because it went up on vaccine news. It went up I think it went up like 4% the day that the election was on November 3rd. A lot of the tech stocks have crazy valuations. They're great companies, but again, valuation matters in the long term.
Right.
And then what happened is, well, we can't really push the prices of these companies any higher. So let's go put some money in the value stock. So in the media, you would hear value rotation. And then I think JP Morgan went up 10% in a day. And I knew that was going to happen just from experience. When something like, there's so much money flowing in the market right now because the Fed's just printing money. That money has to go somewhere. And when things get overvalued here, well, these are comparatively less overvalued, so this gets overvalued, and then this one, and then this one, and then everything just like pops. But that's not going to happen anytime soon. That's going to happen who knows when, but in a few years maybe.
Yeah, that sounded like the derivatives market back in 2008. Oh, yeah, this thing rising. It's a sure bet. Okay, let's go to the next
tranche.
Safest, and then the next safest. But I hear you. We still want to talk about some of the mistakes you did when you first started, some strategies and insights in what you're seeing in the market right now. But I don't think we have time for that today. It'll be great to have you on again to chat. But otherwise, where else can people find you? You mentioned your podcast, so maybe mention that and tell our viewers where else they can dive deeper into your analysis and your thoughts.
Okay, well, I just started putting out content, and the reason for that is that I don't want to be too eager with this. So I'm taking my time and really making sure that what I put out is proper and is meant to be useful. But people can find me on Instagram, VMAN4U's U underscore, so VManu. And then I just recorded a podcast yesterday with one of my friends. and his podcast is called A Fresh Cup of Joe. You can find some additional information there, and then probably 2021 is going to be the year that I'm going to start putting out content. So in my Instagram page right now, I have just one thing, top picks for 2021. I have 5 stock picks there, 5 companies. So if my profile is public, you can just look me up, click on the thing, top picks, like a green, you'll see it as like the first one there. And there's some stock tickers. There's 5 of them. What I would say is do your own research, but you have 5 names there, right? Understand what they are, and if they seem appealing long term for you, then those are 3 options for you, for anyone that wants to start investing, put their money in. And again, cost average, because right now, for me, valuations are a bit stretched, and I don't want anyone to feel like I'm telling them to invest all of their money in the market now. But if you should really start investing like now, just not all at the same time.
For sure. And I think one quick thought before we recap and have a summary of what we talked about. My favorite quote has always been, the best time to plant an apple tree is 20 years ago or today.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Just do it. Yeah. I'll see if I can find the Shia LaBeouf meme of just do it. And we'll include it in this video. But today we talked about all the different types of accounts. And I personally learned that they're all just categories, and what you do within those categories is up to you, up to your risk profile, up to how you take your investment strategy. So for example, under TFSAs, you can have a whole different composition. Under your investment accounts, regular investment account, also the same thing. It could be risky, it could be very risk adverse. And then you have your RRSP account, which can be its own portfolio of investment vehicles as well. I also learned that it's important to have a long-term view on investing. Things that would exist in 10 years. I think that was a very important takeaway for me. Invest in things that you know. And then you talked briefly about the market being overvalued right now. And I think we can go a bit deeper into this next time. Like, comment, and subscribe. Get the notification bell so that you're informed when we push out the next video on investment strategies, some of Victor's insights, and share a little bit about Victor's mistakes when he first started, so you can avoid these mistakes. Victor, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for watching, and I hope to talk to you guys soon.